Okay, so this is our live sew along of the, how do you pronounce it, Dee, actually? Is it Havre?
Of it's French, yeah. So I mean, I was thinking because it ends with an re, some people might just pronounce it Haver, because you know how we say center is re in Canada. So,
Yeah.
but in French it's of.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is our live sew along, and Dee is the designer of the pattern, and she's going to be showing us how to put it together.
Hi. So I am actually going to make one of the three different methods because there are three. So you can either do it with the elastic around the ankle, or you can make it 2 layers enclosed seams or 2 layers exposed seams. So I'm going to do 2 layers exposed seams. So I have my 2 pieces, which I cut mirrored, and my sole. And I'm just going to be making the 1/2, since making it twice wouldn't really give you any extra idea of how to make it. So you want to start by putting the right sides together. I have the right sides together, and I'm going to be using clips to keep it together. I just put a few to make sure that it doesn't really move around and I don't lose where I want it to be connected. So hold on, I will put them in and show you, because that part would be a little hard to do in the air. So here, so I only put 5. And then for my stitch, I put the lightning stitch. Let's see if I can see it here. Well, basically, it looks like 11, which is this one here, the really angled zigzag. That's the one that I am going to be using for the inside here. And you want to line up to 1/4 inch. And then a trick with any kind of knit fabrics is to not start exactly at the edge. So you don't want the needle to be right at the edge. You're going to want to be in just a little bit. Otherwise, your fabric might get eaten by the machine. Did I touch something by accident? And then as I sew, I will remove the clips. All right, so then this is what you should have. So you can see I went all the way around. I want to clip in that curve, because if I don't clip in that curve, it's going to pull and it won't lay flat. So you want to clip in as close as possible to the stitching without actually cutting the stitching. So I will clip it and then I will show you. So here, so this is what it's going to look like with the clippings. So then you pull like this and you put it the inside, right, the wrong sides together. So now you have the right sides out. It's going to look like this. So you can see that it's rounded. I'm going to bring together my 2 ends, and I want to align the middle. So see, this part's going to be really important to align, because that's where the angle part is. What I do is I put in a clip to be sure that I have it, And then I just make sure my pieces are together, and I'm going to do a 1/4 inch. Again, seam allowance. And when I get to where my clip is, I'm going to remove it, but I'm going to press my finger close to it to make sure that it doesn't move, because I really want to keep those pieces together, aligned as perfectly as possible. All right, so see, now I'm going to flip it open. And all right, well, I got close, but not perfect, but close enough. So now I have my top piece is ready to be sewn to my sole. So typically what I'll do is I'll start by clipping the toe to the toe and clipping the heel to the heel, but I may have to move it around a bit. Oops, let me just keep my curves, keep my seams flat. Okay. All right, so then I'm just going to slowly add the clips and follow the sole. Just about done. Oh, I noticed I had just a little extra. I'm just easing it in. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. And I'm ready to sew. I typically sew with the sole facing up and the swim facing down. I find that when I sew the other way, the swim tends to stretch, and this way I don't have to worry about that. If I really wanted to, I could use a double-sided sticky tape, like a wash-away tape, and that would keep it in place without me having to worry about it. But I just find it a lot easier to just sew with the swim facing down and the sole facing up. I always start at the heel. There's no particular reason, so you could start somewhere else, but this is just where I choose to start. And then here I will be doing a straight stitch. And I will back stitch, although I don't always back stitch. But if I don't back stitch, I do make sure to overlap my stitches, which is basically the same principle as back stitching. So You don't want to end exactly where you started if you don't backstitch. All right. So my fabric did slip just a little bit. It stuck out a little bit, but it's the swim, which is all right, as long as I keep the sole the right size. And then I'm going to trim my my seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. And that's just so that it's not bulky on the inside of the swim shoe. Oops, I missed a piece here. All right, so all clipped. And then I flip it inside out. And there's my shoe. All done. That was it. I don't even think that was a full 10 minutes. Once you've done your one shoe, you just make the other half. Just make sure if you are using the same fabric on both sides, like see, for instance, I did use both white to make sure that you line up the other one properly so that you don't end up with two left feet, which I've done.
So there's no elastic or anything around the ankle?
So there is an option to make it with an elastic, and in that case, it would be a single layer instead of doing two. My kids much prefer it to be the 2-layer. It's a lot softer. I mean, the elastic is covered. It's not like it's bare on the inside, but they just seem to prefer it that way. But there is the way to make it with the elastic as well.
Or could you put elastic inside of the 2 layers?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could. You'd have to probably cut it longer though, because then your seam allowance, so you'd be putting your elastic inside that seam allowance, right? So you'd have to make sure that it's on the outside of that quarter inch seam allowance. So in that case, you'd have to go by a different length of elastic. You wouldn't be able to go with what's in the pattern.
So the pattern just has the elastic around like the back, or is it all around the whole inside?
So it goes all around the inside of the ankle, but it goes really up to the edge of the fabric. And then that's where you have so you still end up with a quarter seam allowance like you do with this version, but you're sewing on top, like on top of the elastic, and it's directly up to the edge of the fabric.
And my problem always is with the elastic, it stretches it out too much. So I kind of like that this doesn't have elastic.
Oh, well, there you go.
Do they stay on pretty well? So my grandkids are out in BC, so they go to the ocean a lot. And I just didn't know if they would be sturdy enough for rocky oceans.
Yeah, well, so with my son, they stay on really well because he's on the upper end of the size. Okay. And then with my daughter, they still stay on, but they're not as snug because she's on the lower end. So in that case, if they're on the lower end, you could also choose to downsize. So for example, if they measured just above a size 10, you could choose to, instead of making a size 11, make that size 10. And then it would be snug and it would definitely not come off or anything. So it all depends on whether or not you want to have to make another pair when they outgrow that one or not.
Yeah.
And how snug you want it to be. Because it also depends on the kids. Because I know my daughter, she complains if I size down, and my son is fine with being more snug. Yeah.
You could probably also just use the size they measure for the sole and then just size down the top part because it'll stretch, right? So you could just size down the top part. I've made some for my daughter and they stay on really well too. She's worn them to the beach, and the only thing that I would say about wearing them to the beach is don't make them in a fabric that will show stains, because hers are stained after one trip. So yeah.
Yeah, we use the bad bathing suits for the beach so that they don't, it doesn't matter because all the sand gets caught in the fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have Tough Tech, so that's why I was thinking it might work if I haven't made my swim fabric yet, but they're at the beach 2-3 times a day because they don't have pools or playgrounds where they live. That's just where they go. But I was just wondering, would they go through the toes? Because there's no bumper on the toes. And so some of the pictures I saw, it looked really snug on the big toe. And I just didn't know if that was an issue.
You mean if it would end up creating like a hole with time or something, like where the toe would go through?
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's been wearing it all summer and that hasn't happened. Maybe if it was just the one lining and maybe if they have sharper toenails or something, but it hasn't come up yet. So
Yeah.
I don't know if in the long run, but it is something you could do if you wanted to add
like a bumper on the toe or something. Yeah, a cover.
Yeah. So what you could always do is you could just cut about how high you will want it to be. You could cut the pattern piece for the top piece. So you could cut it with your Tough Tech or with a kind of waterproof vinyl, and then you could just sew across, just like one straight stitch across before you move on to the construction part. Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. So I could use PUL or something like that as well, right? PUL, whatever that stands
for. Yeah.
Yeah. Swim fabric is really tough though. I find polyester fabrics don't wear through very easily.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? I was thinking I'd have to figure out fold over elastic, and it never works for me. So this is great to know. It's just 2 layers of fabric. Like, how fast is that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think it was 6 minutes. So.
Yeah.